All right, good morning, everyone. I hereby convene the September 9th, 2024 hearing of the Santa Barbara County Zoning Administrator. My name is Linda Liu, and I'll be the zoning administrator for today's hearing, and Mr. David Villalobos will be clerking. This hearing will be conducted under the provisions of the Ralph M. Brown Act, Open Meeting Law, as well as the provisions of California Planning Law and the Santa Barbara County Code. We have two items on today's agenda. The clerk will read each item into the record, and I will announce any ex parte communications. I will then get comments from the case planner, followed by the applicant or the applicant's agent, and then I will get comments from the public. Anyone who wishes to testify should use the speaker slip in the back of the room and turn it into the clerk. Those that are appearing online should use your raise hand feature. And when testifying, please state your name when it's your turn to speak. All right, the first portion of our agenda is for the general public comment. This period gives the public an opportunity to comment on matters that are not on today's agenda. Mr. Villalobos, do we have any requests to speak on that?
Ms. Liu, I have not received any speaker slips, and I do not see any hands raised online or anyone rising to speak at this time.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're ready to proceed to our standard agenda.
Thank you. The following is a hearing on request of Lyons Family Trust to consider case number 23 DVP2 and to determine the project is exempt pursuant to sections 15301 and 15303 of the state guidelines for the implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Villalobos. By way of ex parte communications, I don't have anything extraneous to announce other than having spoken to Mr. Orta for some background information on this project, and in addition to the public comments that were submitted and available online. Mr. Orta, are you ready to proceed?
I am, Ms. Liu. Good morning. Happy Monday. I'll be presenting a brief overview of the Lyons Tier 2 winery for you. The subject property is located on 3385 Baseline Avenue in Santa Ynez area. It takes access from an existing driveway via Baseline Avenue. The property is located approximately 9.7 acres and is located in the Ag 110 zone district. The project is a request for a development plan to allow a Tier 2 winery operation and tasting room within an existing 1,850 square foot existing single-story ag accessory structure. The ag accessory structure to be converted to a winery will produce a maximum of 800 cases annually and include crushing, fermentation, barrel aging, bottling, case storage, retail wine sales, and private organized gatherings. The property is currently planted with 5 acres of vineyards. 100% of winery grapes will be sourced from grapes grown on site using approximately 20% white and 80% red varietals. Winery processing operations will occur Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The winery will employ 2 employees during harvest and crush season, but will otherwise employ 1 person. The tasting room will be open in the ag accessory structure to be converted for private uses only from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. However, the requirements outlined by the State Water Board limit the number of individuals being served by the existing water well to no more than 25 persons. That includes children daily throughout the property, including employees, residents, and guests as well. The tasting room will not serve more than 16 people per day, 25 persons minus any persons living on the property, both in the single-family dwelling on site and the accessory dwelling unit. In addition, any guests or employees that could be on, and in addition, any guests or employees that could be on site in a day for more than 59 days per year. No special events are proposed. However, the applicant proposes a maximum of 8 private organized gatherings per calendar year beyond the allowed private tastings. As previously mentioned, organized private gatherings would be limited to a maximum of 70 persons. This doesn't include staff or persons living on site, and to the hours of 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Organized gatherings would include, for example, wine club member pickup parties, winemaker lunches or dinners, or industry member wine release parties. The project provides a total of 4 standard parking spaces. Temporary parking areas for organized gatherings are indicated on the architectural plans. Directional and parking signage will be situated on site for overflow parking as needed. And as mentioned earlier, access to the proposed winery will continue to be provided off of Baseline Avenue, and the existing driveway will be improved to meet county fire requirements. The project also meets all development standards, which include setbacks and the height limits, and winery standards like access, screening, lights, and parking, as discussed in section 5.3 of the staff report. The proposed project's winery building footprint will be approximately 1,060 feet from the front property line, 235 feet from the neighboring parcel to the east, 155 feet from the neighboring parcel to the north, and 20 feet from the neighboring parcel to the west. The setbacks may be reduced by the review authority provided certain findings can be met, as long as they are not reduced below the setbacks required by the zone district. The applicant is requesting a setback reduction. And since the winery is proposing private tasting and organized gatherings, all structures and outdoor use areas associated with the winery are required to be set back 100 feet from adjacent lots and 200 feet from existing residences on adjacent lots. The existing structure is located, as I mentioned earlier, 20 feet from the adjacent parcel to the east, with the closest offsite residence approximately 370 feet to the east. As a result, the applicant, like I mentioned earlier, is requesting a setback modification to the winery setbacks to allow for a reduction of the 100-foot setback from the adjacent parcel. A setback reduction is allowed for illegally constructed existing structures, such as an ag accessory structure, as long as it can be clearly demonstrated that the structure was intended to be used for legitimate ag or residential use. And the use of the structure as part of a winery operation shall not adversely affect neighboring properties. Furthermore, converting the existing barn structure rather than building a new winery building elsewhere on the site in a location 100 feet from the nearest property line would allow the prime soils that are present on site to be preserved to the maximum extent feasible, maximizing distance from the existing residences and minimize visual impacts from public viewing areas. The project is exempt from environmental review under CEQA guidelines section 15301 and 15303. These exemptions apply to the proposed project because no new structural development is proposed and no exterior alterations are proposed. The proposed winery is entirely located with the existing ag accessory structure, and the proposed winery use is consistent with the existing 5-acre production ag on the property. Staff recommends staff recommends the ZA take the following actions: make the required findings for approval as specified in attachment A of the staff report, including CEQA findings. Determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15301 and 15303. And approve the project subject to the conditions of approval in attachment B. And lastly, at the request of the ZA, P&D staff has attached a memo dated August 23rd, 2024, that provided additional information regarding nearby permitted and proposed wineries with special events, the proposed winery setback reduction, clarification that a maximum of 8 private organized gatherings per calendar year are proposed, and a brief response to a public comment letter dated August 2nd, 2024 from adjacent property owners. And lastly, staff just wants to clarify that attachment A was also updated too. Just brief minor clarifications that the ZA requested. And finally, this concludes staff's presentation. We're available for any questions. The applicant team, A34 Studio, and their representatives are also here and available for any questions. Thank you so much, Ms. Liu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orta. Is the applicant's team, whoever your speaker is? Please state your name for the record.
Good morning. Can you hear? Okay. Lauren Anderson with A34 Studio. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant regarding the proposed Tier 2 winery project. As you are aware, some concerns were raised about the project by a neighbor during the August hearing for this item. For the record and from the public comment that came on Friday, the website was a draft and was not to be live and will be revised. So it's not live, it will be revised to reflect the entitlements that we are pursuing today. Since that meeting, we have spoken with the concerned neighbors and met on site to discuss the project and view the project from both sides of the property line. The core concern seems to be the proposed winery use of the property. However, we find that a small-scale winery is an appropriate use for the property and is compatible with the neighborhood for the following reasons. First, the property is zoned Ag 1, which allows for residential uses and limited agricultural uses compatible with residential uses on lots ranging in size from 5 to 10 acres. And as laid out in staff's memo, this project, as proposed, is in compliance with the land use policies and development standards which regulate a winery in the Ag 1 zone. Second, the use of this property as a winery is consistent with land use patterns in the neighborhood and throughout the valley. Along Baseline, equestrian, livestock, and other agricultural uses are located adjacent to residences, and throughout the valley, both public and private wineries are adjacent to equestrian facilities, farms, and residences, including those identified by the staff in the memo. An important distinguishing factor for this project is that it is not open to the public. It is a very small-scale private winery serving a limited number of guests by appointment only and on the weekends. Another concern raised was that the potential impact of the project on the community character. It is important to note here that the Lions were attracted to the valley and this neighborhood for the same reasons their neighbors are: tranquility, rural character, and small town feel. This rural character is largely maintained by an Ag 1 zone properties in the valley, which, as noted above, allow for both residential and compatible agricultural uses such as small-scale wineries. Further, per the Santa Ynez Valley Community Plan, agriculture is a strong component of community identity and a major contributor to the Santa Ynez Valley's economy. One of the goals of this community plan is to keep agriculturally zoned land agricultural. This proposed project follows these valley blueprint goals. This business is very personal to the applicant as they intend to live on the property and be direct hands-on with the winemaking and wine tasting activities. This is their business and their home. As such, the applicant would not want to propose and is not proposing anything that would jeopardize the enjoyment of the property in the neighborhood for them or their neighbors. And consistent with their goals, the proposed winery is sensitively and responsibly designed to avoid any negative influences on surrounding properties in the neighborhood. The winery is proposed to utilize an existing permitted agriculture accessory structure rather than build a new building. The building is set back deep on the 10-acre property with no views from the street. All equipment is located inside the barn and no exterior alterations are proposed, including no new lighting. As noted above, the winery will be surrounded by existing equestrian and agricultural uses, is limited to appointment tasting during limited hours on the weekends, and will not include amplified music. Regarding setbacks, the required setback for the tasting room is 100 feet from the property line for a private winery. While we are requesting a modification to use an existing legal agricultural structure for the tasting room, which is 20 feet from the property line, the closest residence is 370 feet away, which is compliant with the required 200 feet for a residential structure. In sum, agriculturally zoned land used for agricultural purposes is an essential part of the Santa Ynez Valley community and economy. Ag 1 specifically allows for both residential and compatible agricultural uses to coexist and support the rural character and feel of the valley, which the applicant wants to support and uphold. In this case, the owner is wishing to utilize an existing agricultural structure on their property to grow their business in a small scale and respectful manner in keeping with the neighborhood and community. We think this project as designed is a beneficial use for the Ag 1 property, and we respectfully request that you follow the staff's recommendation and approve the project. I'm available, as is the owner, if you should have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. I have one speaker slip in front of me with a couple more. The first speaker is Mr. Chip Holbrandt.
Thank you, Madam Administrator. And first, I'm going to apologize for misspelling your name on my letter.
That's quite all right.
This one, it's odd. I'm in many ways sad to have to be here. I'm normally here on behalf of winery projects, and I think that in 30-plus years, this is only the second one that I have represented neighbors opposed to the project. And interestingly, they were both on small, narrow Ag 1 parcels within existing developed neighborhoods. I want to start with why are they asking for a Tier 2 winery? And I'm sorry to go through this kind of detail, but as you know, there are 3 tiers under the winery ordinance. They're not specifically called tiers, but we all refer to them as Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, including with this application. And the main differences between a Tier 1 permit, which I think may be what they thought they were going to apply for, and a Tier 2 is that a Tier 2 permit allows for higher case production. It allows actually for you to go down to 1 acre per 1,000 cases rather than 2 acres and much higher case production. That's not the case here. They're at least representing that they're only going to produce 800 cases, which then brings me to the question, what is the primary use of this property? Is it really a winery that is going to produce wine, then with incidental on-site retail sales, which is what is required, and you're required to make that finding? Or is this an event center, which is what it looks like? I heard the applicant's representative say that their website is not yet supposed to be live, but it does represent what they are planning. It's a website for an event center. The next reason that one would apply for a Tier 2 is to have greater square footage. They're not applying for that here. So the only other reason to have a Tier 2 rather than a Tier 1 is to have a winery tasting room as it's defined in the zoning ordinance. And a winery tasting room, as defined in the zoning ordinance, is a retail space open to the general public. They're talking here as though they're going to have something that I've never seen defined, and it's certainly not defined in the zoning ordinance, a private tasting room, but where they're going to have retail sales and all the other things that is a public tasting room that you need a Tier 2 winery permit for. That's not something that exists, and all of the impacts from a public tasting room are here going to happen, and in fact, from their website and many more. I'm sorry, I'm representing 3 neighbors, so I'm going to, if I may, go a little bit over time. I'll try and close up though. The main issue is it's very clear that for a Tier 2 tasting room open to the public, including public activities, and all you have to do is have retail sales on site to get to that level. The setbacks, which staff seems to be confused about, the setbacks are 200 feet from the property boundary for all related activity, including outdoor activities, and 400 feet from any adjacent resident. The other one time that I was actually at the Board of Supervisors on an application on a very small Ag 1 parcel, it's what was known as the TTT winery, which was denied at every level, specifically because it didn't meet those setbacks. In this case, this project is on a property essentially 300 feet wide. It can't meet any of the setbacks. There's no basis to provide for a reduction of the setback, either for the structure down to only 20 feet or for the outdoor uses, which are proposed to go to 0. That's not a setback at all. So again, I would strongly urge you deny this project, and I'm hopeful that these applicants either will find a property where their dream fits, and that really is the issue here. This does not fit on this property. So the property doesn't meet the basic standard that the project must be appropriate in size for the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilbrandt. Our next speaker is Pam Kadlubik.
Lubeck, you said it right.
Thank you.
I am the neighbor, 3455. I am adjacent to 154, which is rather a nightmare right now, if you have any idea about a roundabout, but that's a different issue. We built our house 40 years ago. Well, let me see, 35 years ago. The whole entire area was in oat hay and alfalfa, and that whole area had been used for that at that time. My husband bought the property from a family, and we worked real hard. We paid off 4 mortgages plus a mortgage for a house to move into that. In fact, this is actually the morning that he died a year ago. So this is very difficult. That's why I'm here, because I know he would want to not see this project go on. I am opposed completely for the reasons of traffic, light, and if you know the street of Baseline, it's very dangerous at the roundabout where that's going in, and very lot of traffic that goes down the street. And it is within a mile of a school. School bus will come down there during these hours of their proposed private things. And it doesn't fit into my neighborhood as a residential. Yes, it is agricultural, but it is a business. It's a public business, not really private. It's maybe a wine club, which is also a business, which I understand. And also the one thing that the bike path is non-existent on my street. So there is no way that you can put parking on my street. It's most of the time when it rains, it's all muddy, and it's not a good idea. So children who are walking down that way to go to their school will be passing maybe people who have had some drinking. So I just wanted to mention that, and know that our school has fought very hard to try to teach our children well, and to not teach them that it's okay to just have parties all the time, which they have a hard time with in their in high schools around our town and everywhere. And I appreciate your listening. I know that my time is up, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kadlubik. Next speaker is Amanda Kadlubik.
Good morning to everyone, and I believe you are Miss Liv and Mr. Villalobos, correct? I'm Pam Kadlubek's daughter, and I grew up on the property. Yes, today is the anniversary of my father's death. And this is a difficult thing to try to do today, but we are doing it not only for him, but for the neighborhood, because this is dangerous. We all know that DUIs have increased all over the nation. And I don't know how you would possibly be able to control or regulate any of that in this area to the point that it could get to, because this is a dark residential area right now. There will be added light pollution and all of that. But my concern is that we're right by Highway 154. It is a very dangerous road to be drinking and driving in right now, and to have a potential increase in that that specific spot seems like a very horrible place because I feel that people, if they were drinking and driving, could do way more damage, just as far as where the vicinity is. It's too easy to just get right on that 154 and have lives lost. As has already been said, you know, it's a business. This is a residential area. I grew up there with, you know, being able to see the stars at night, which we can still see. Agriculture in that area has not been a private business. It has been ote. It has been pumpkins. We've had things that is not going to be a danger with alcohol in that area. And while a winery is an agriculture business, if you're going to have a tasting room, it completely violates the main point of having a rural area. And I'm not against wineries because I worked for Fess Parker. My dad worked for Fess Parker. We know the wine industry, but this is a very bad area to do it in when we're a mile away from the school. It's right by 154. As my mom said, there's nowhere to walk. You'd have to do a heck of a lot of road work to be able to park on that street, and I don't know how that would happen. But an agriculture area is supposed to be a place that fits the neighborhood. There's one other business that, you know, is, you know, open to the public, but it's the farm stand. It's where you can go to get pumpkins at, you know, regular business hours. And this business is going to be open all week. They say that it's going to be 12 to 4 p.m. on Saturdays. It's going to be 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's a huge concern. That would completely change the neighborhood and the function of that road. That's also a road that I'm concerned that if people were to drunk drive more on that road, it's the visibility as you're going towards Ballard is quite bad because of the hills.
Ms. Kalubik, I'm going to need you to wrap up. Your
Oh,
time's up.
Okay.
That's why it's flashing red.
I'm sorry. I've never done this before.
That's okay.
Forgive me.
I understand.
And I guess in conclusion, I just don't really appreciate the sneaky language that's on the proposal because it's not, it doesn't seem at all representative of what the actual intentions are of that property. The intentions are to start a business and to have the public on the business, and that would completely change our neighborhood and the function of our neighborhood being a traditional agricultural neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nan Walden.
Good morning. I'm Nan Walden, and I'm here speaking for myself and Richard Walden. So he's a little bit disabled, so I would appreciate having a little extra time since he can't come to the podium. We are the immediate neighbors to the west at 3331 Baseline, and I would like to incorporate our letters of August 2nd and also the most recent letter of August 30th into our statements today. I want to report regrettably that aside from myself and my real estate agent attending a quick site visit with Sarah and her parents, there's been no outreach by the Lions to us with any specific mitigation proposals or offers of compromise. Lauren did come to the property after we had a brief tour of the site. Unfortunately, Sarah said she was too busy that day, had her son to pick up, but she set the time for the appointment, and there's been many weeks since that we've been there. This is disappointing to us because we don't feel like our neighbors are really concerned about the impacts, and I want to echo what Pam and her daughters said. This has been rushed through without consultation with us in a very non-transparent way. I've also had no call back from Adam Orta. I did leave a message for him that I would like to talk about this and the impacts, and I would like him to to see for himself, because as you can see from this map, the barn tasting room is 25 feet from our property, and the ingress and road goes all along our property border, almost the entire length of the property, 2/3 to 3/4. And you have the measurements there. It is also very close to our barn and horse area. The activities will spill out of the building. I don't agree that they will be contained inside the building. There's no way that's going to happen. It's a very small building. We were not allowed to see the inside of it when we did our site visit at the Lions invitation. It was padlocked. But there's no way that people aren't going to spill out from an unair-conditioned and unheated building, which is what the Lions said it would be. No external HVAC. They're going to come into the parking lot, into the grass areas on the road that immediately is the boundary of our property. It also is very close to our guest house. You have a different name for it. It's called a DRSU, but it's very close to our guest house. And our main residence, you can see the lawns where we do all our outdoor cooking, entertaining. You know, we try to be very mindful and respectful of noise to the neighbors. And I just want to say again, the hours, the intensity of use, we don't have faith that, you know, we can enforce any kind of standards given the track record here. And it's not just 4 parking spaces. It says in the application they need 28. And I don't know in a high fire area how you can park on fields or, you know, weed covered areas and not be a fire hazard as well. You know, we certainly support agriculture. We've been in agriculture. My husband has been over 70 years, and I work in the business too. We don't want to disappoint anyone in their dream, but you cannot achieve your dream by ruining the dreams of your neighbors, and that's what's going to happen here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walden. Our last speaker, as of right now, is Mr. David Lawrence.
Good morning. My name is David Lawrence. I'm here with my wife, Ann. I just wanted to say that, you know, we've lived at our house for over 24 years and seen numerous owners come and go. There's been good ones, there's been bad ones. There've been loud people, there's been Airbnbs with parties, you know, till 1, 2 in the morning. But I think the biggest thing is that what started this was deceitful from the beginning. Where the neighbors tried to sneak this through the permitting process without us even knowing. And nobody contacted us until after the last meeting a month ago to try to talk to us about this. The other major concern is, how is a 70-person event a private event? I mean, I would think by the definition of a private event, it would be family, but it's not. It's being sold on the internet as packages and stuff to go to this location. And 8 times a year, who's going to monitor if it's 9, if it's 10, if it's 12? Nobody. The other thing, there is an existing gravel road that runs the entire length of our property, directly adjacent to it, like just over the fence. It runs the entire length. It's a gravel road. It's well maintained. Who's going to prevent visitors and stuff from using that road and driving the entire length of our property every time they go there? Nobody. I just can't believe this is even being considered, to be honest. You know, there's also another concern, you know, we put up with as well, is the actual wine grapes. You know, it's not easy to live next door to that even happening with that close proximity. They're out there in the fields at least 3-4 times a year with headlamps on, playing music with their radios, working in the fields. But we have to deal with that as well. Tractors out there in the middle of the night. It's not just during the daytime. It's literally like 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so this, just having the wine grapes there is enough of a nuisance. Now tell me you're going to bring 70 people 8 times a year, which probably end up being 10 or 12 That's not acceptable. So we are definitely in opposition of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Villalobos, do we have any additional requests to speak on this item?
Ms. Lu, no, we have no additional requests at this time.
Great, thank you. So I'll go ahead and close out the public hearing for this item. Mr. Orta, I do have a couple of follow-up questions regarding the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2 and what's being proposed, and then clarification on the setback analysis.
Hi, thanks, Ms. Liu. Good morning again. So your first question regarding the Tier 1, Tier 2. So as it kind of relates to the setback modification as well. So for the Tier 1, from one of the applicants has said they have requested a Tier 2 to allow for potential, further development or for further production if that was needed. Also, Tier 2s do include the use for private tasting rooms. And for the setback reduction, under the winery ordinance, setback reductions are allowed. The 100-foot setback from the property line is a setback from, again, the winery ordinance that applies because the applicant is not proposing public tours, public tasting, or special events. This is limited to private tasting appointment only, including on the weekends. Again, the 100-foot setback from the property line is setback from the winery structure itself, and does comply with it. The furthest residence is approximately on 370 feet, again. And any other questions that you have regarding the setback modification, we can clarify that as well.
Very much, Mr. Orta. It looks like, can you state your name for the record, please?
Beth Collins. Hi, I'm a land use attorney from Brownstein. I represent the applicant. Thank you. A couple of points. One, there's a bit of confusion, I think, just listening to the comments, and I just want to clarify here. There's a bit of mixing apples and oranges. One issue is the Tier 2 winery. That is being requested to allow processing on the site, to allow a tasting room of 400 square feet, and to allow sales. A separate issue is public versus private. This is a private proposal. So we're not proposing that the public can just drive up to this winery. Okay, they have to call, they have to make an appointment. They're very, very limited hours, Saturday, Sunday, 12 to 4, and only 16 people allowed during that period of time. So they talk about drinking and driving at night, those types of things. They would not apply here for the tasting room. Then we are also proposing 8 times a year gatherings of 70 people. So it's a very limited private proposal for a Tier 2 winery. There is an existing farm now. There are existing agricultural operations, as you mentioned. Ag is not a silent, neighbor. It is an ongoing enterprise, right? That's the whole point. There are tractors, there are lights, there is noise, okay? There are cars. Here, this proposal is just to add an employee, one employee, you heard that during the week, wine processing in an existing barn that minimizes impacts to the agricultural soils on the site and puts some processing inside a barn. And then you could say, well, is that going to be a problem, adding processing inside a barn? No, because it is set back significantly from any of the surrounding residences. And so we are asking to allow that processing on site for private, limited wine tasting. It's okay if people come outside of the 400-foot tasting room. That may occur. But remember, it's the exact same thing as if any of these homeowners might also have a gathering at their homes a dinner party, any of these sorts of things are very light impact. It's nothing like a huge, winery like Brander or some of the other wineries that we're thinking of. This is a small private offering. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Ms. Collins, while you're up here, I
Yes.
do have a couple of follow-up questions for you.
Sure.
This website that was mentioned, can you tell me when that was developed?
Yes.
When?
So very unfortunate. Apparently, there was an error, I guess on Squarespace or whatever platform they were doing it. That was a draft. It was not intended to be posted. It does not reflect anything that they're doing at the site now. No public is coming to the site, nobody, invitation or otherwise. So that somebody has very good Googling and was able to find this website that, frankly, my clients didn't even know was available. And we did not know was available until we received the letter. So obviously we are working to make sure that's down, and we're not doing any sort of public event or reservation or anything. We're going
So
through
when
this.
was that put together?
When was it put together? Come up, you can come on up.
The website was put together months ago. My name is Skylines. Website was put together months ago, and with no intention for it to go live. And as we've been going through this process, we intentionally, I believed, was completely down. It has no intention to go live in its current format until we can work to resolve everything, and then it will be readdressed. But this website, as you see it, there's no intention for it to go live.
Okay, I will, so one of the things that I do find troubling is the transparency that the neighbors have been complaining about. And this website doesn't do you any favors. The idea that this was put up a couple months ago, and the application was submitted in 2023, and it completely is different from the project description that's proposed in the application. It's a little troubling, I can see, for the neighbors
Yep.
and what's being proposed. So the question is, what's proposed on that website? Is that the intent eventually? Are you planning on doing everything that's listed in that website that you put together a couple months ago?
No, it's really just like a place where we're putting down thoughts and stuff. Like it hasn't been finalized in any way.
Okay. Thank you very much. Like I said, that is troubling, and I appreciate why the neighbors are concerned. Mr. Orta.
Ms. Lou, I believe Ms. Reese has her hand up as well. I'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi there.
Ms. Reese?
I just wanted to add that it isn't unprecedented for tier 2 wineries to be, private tasting only and by appointment only. I know like the Tyler Winery, for example, had that restriction. And I think we'll continue to see it, especially as regulations on water systems have changed over the last decade or so, that it kind of lowers the barrier of entry for a smaller scale winery that still wants to have some, private tasting component. And so that is something that we have seen before. I just wanted to shed some light on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Orta, and maybe Ms. Reese, you can answer this. The follow-up question I had is, you guys have seen what's listed on this draft website. If the Lions were to come in at some point after this and say, everything that's listed on there, we want to do, what would be the process for that?
Hi, good morning again, Ms. Lou. Thank you. This is Adam. The process would be if the zoning administrator, elected to approve the project today, and there were subsequent modifications to the project description, additional structures requesting, increase of case production, the applicant would need to come back to P&D and request an amendment to the development plan.
And that would require additional noticing to the neighbors and a separate hearing process and all that?
The amendment, yes, I believe so.
If it qualified for a substantial conformity determination, there would not be a hearing, but there would be noticing. An amendment would require noticing as well. It may be director level. I'm not sure about the hearing component, but it would certainly be noticed publicly.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh,
Understand that hearing, and this is just a comment on the answer you got from staff.
I will give you 1 minute.
Thank you. I just would note, because I do this regularly, a substantial conformity determination at the director level, I think would be quite possible. In fact, quite likely, substantial conformity determination is not an appealable action. And so I think you've realized what we have here. We have an applicant with a dream, and then they realize that their dream wasn't going to get approved today. They're still planning to come back someday with that dream, probably someday very soon. And the other answer, I would just ask you to look at the language of the ordinance about when the 200 and 400-foot setbacks apply, and they are for retail sales, and that's what is proposed here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolbrandt. Thank you very much for that explanation, Ms. Reese.
No problem.
So-
Just to note that the land use permit that follows a substantial conformity determination is an appealable action.
All right, great. Thank you. Finally, one last question. The other concern is about compliance monitoring on this. It sounds like it's mostly the organized gatherings that may be of issue. But in general, what is the compliance process, monitoring process?
There is permit compliance applied to this project. And as a result, there would be a staff member that's assigned to respond to any complaints, make sure that permit conditions are complied with. Adam, do you have anything to add about the conditions?
Yeah, sure. So as part of the conditions that we issued specifically, you know, we implemented conditions on exterior lighting, construction related equipment for the installation and for dust control. As the Lions would be upgrading internally the winery structure, we have limited construction hours. We have waste management hours. We have waste management areas that, you know, contain all the waste regarding all the tenant improvement so they'll be doing. There's conditions on water monitoring, and additionally there's conditions from other departments, from APCD, and specifically the heaviest requirements that I would say the project applicant has is directly related to the amount of people that are limited to be on site. They have a very strict state water permit system, state water permit that severely restricts how many people can be on site at any given time. If they were in violation of this, the application would be subject to fines and additional permitting. So not only does P&D have very strict conditions on this, other state and county departmental agencies have also provided their conditions in attachment B that you can review. Any other questions? Like Ms. Reese had mentioned, a permit compliance monitoring staff from P&D will be assigned to the project, and any complaints or any issues, if adjacent neighbors or anyone has any complaints regarding the Lions, and if they're in non-compliance with their permit, they are more than welcome to submit a zoning complaint to us, and that will be assigned to that compliance monitor, and we will investigate those complaints.
So what I'm hearing is that the compliance is all reactionary and not proactive. There is no active monitoring of it. So it's relying on complaints that come in, Mr. Orta?
Most of it, yes. As with all of our other complaints, we are, as you know, complaint driven in the county. So if a project or use is out of compliance, we do rely on the subject, the interested parties or complaints to be received by us. However, there is a biannual report that the applicant must submit as part of their winery attendees. And so the applicant is required to send that, and that is in condition 10 of the staff report in attachment B. They need to send us that biannual report that lists how many tastings and how many people that they are having on site biannually. And I believe in attachment B, that's by September 1st and March 1st of each year that the winery and tastings are in operation. And so again, P&D compliance monitoring staff are in charge and required to review those reports and document how many days more than 25 persons have been served over the course of the year. And any non-compliance will be reported to EHS. And furthermore, will be sent down to the state water board because that's where that permit lies.
And these reports are based on an honor system?
Yes, the reports are submitted by the property owner to P&D compliance staff biannually.
So there are no independent verification.
There are none.
If it was in your interest, Ms. Liu, what we've seen in the past, is that, especially where there are private tastings like this, you have a reservation system in place. Like the permit compliance officer can ask at any time for that supporting detail, or the condition could be revised to supply the reservation information. And notably, the number of persons, it's not just tasters, it's if they bring their kids to it, it's just any persons in excess, and it could be for people picking up their wine club shipment as well. That's all of those people would count towards the 25.
Ms. Collins, is that amenable? I would like to have some sort of documentation added to that biannual report. Mr. Orta, can you revise that condition to reflect that?
Ms. Liu, yes, we definitely can.
Okay. All right, I've had enough questions for this item. Not that I've had enough of this item, but I don't have any further questions. I do understand the differences of opinions here. I do understand that, with the property, the way that it's laid out and everything that the Lions wants to do versus what's neighborhood and what's good for the neighborhood. What's before me is what's before me. And I can only comment as to what's before me. And so given the project description as it is described, I will go ahead and make the required findings for this project as specified in the revised findings labeled as attachment A, including the CEQA findings. I will determine that this project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15301 and 15303, included as attachment C of the staff report. And I approve this project case number 23 DVP 0002, subject to the conditions of approval included as attachment B of the staff report and as revised at today's hearing. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate the time and efforts that you guys took. We'll take a couple minutes for you guys to clear the room for our next item. Mr. Villalobos. Next item, please.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. The following is a hearing on the request of SSST Holdings LLC to consider case number 24 Mod 5 for a modification and to determine the project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to section 15305 of the state guidelines for implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Villalobos. I do not have any ex parte communications to announce. Ms. Beers, are you ready to proceed? All right.
Good morning, Ms. Liu. My name is Olivia Beers, and I'm the planner for the SST Holdings Setback Modification Project. The subject parcel is a 1.55 acre parcel zoned 1.5 EX1 and located at 4691 Via Roblata in the Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan Area. The parcel is surrounded by single-family residences to the north, south, east, and more Mesa open space to the west. The project before you today is a modification to reduce a portion of the required 25-foot south side setback to 12 feet to allow construction of a new approximately 925 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit with 235 square feet of deck. The proposed modification requests an approximately 10.71% reduction to the south side setback area to locate the accessory dwelling unit in an area of the site that reduces the impact to existing oaks and therefore allows for better resource protection. The proposed project complies with the required setbacks with modification, the height limit, and the parking requirement. Additionally, the proposed project is consistent with the County Comprehensive Plan, including the Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan, the Coastal Land Use Plan, and Article 2, the Coastal Zoning Ordinance. Staff recommends that you make the required findings for approval included in Attachment A to the staff report, determine that the project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Section 15303, and grant approval of the project subject to the conditions included as Attachment B to the staff report dated August 23rd, 2024. I'd also like to point out that there was a typo in the staff report and the fire condition letter is from 2024, not 2021. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beers. Mr. Grant? You unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Grant. Have you had an opportunity to review the staff reports, its conditions of approval, and the findings?
I have.
And are you in agreement with all of that?
We are, yes.
Do you have anything to add to what Ms. Beers has presented?
No, so Ms. Beers laid it out quite well, and we're in agreement with everything.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant.
Thank you.
Mr. Villalobos, do we have any requests to speak on this?
Ms. Liu, no, we have received no requests for this item.
All right, then I'll go ahead and close out the public hearing for this item. Ms. Beers, I understand that a lot of the can and will serve letters and reports were submitted in conjunction with a separate but related project. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so in 2021, there was a CDH that permitted the demolition of the existing house on the site and the construction of a new house. And on those project plans, the detached accessory dwelling unit that is proposed now was shown, but it was noted that it was to be under a separate permit. So the water intent to serve, EHS letters, things like that, those agencies did review the accessory dwelling unit at the time. And so that is why those condition letters are from 2021, and the work on the single family dwelling has not happened yet. They were waiting for this ADU permit to be approved so that all the construction could happen simultaneously.
All right. And you mentioned the fire department letter that was included. The fire department letter also has a condition on there for development impact fees. I understand this may not be related to this particular action, but
Yeah, thank you. So the fire department reviewed both this modification and the associated coastal development permit for the ADU at the same time. So that DIMP condition will be applied to the coastal development permit for the actual construction of the ADU, whereas this modification only permits the reduction of the setback.
All right, great. I don't have any further questions for you. Thank you very much, Ms. Beers. Ms. Liu, thank you for being here. And I will go ahead and close out the hearing for this and make the required findings for this project as specified in Attachment A of the staff report, including the CEQA findings. I do determine that this project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15305, included as Attachment C of the staff report. And I approve the project case number 24 MOD 0005, subject to the conditions of approval included as Attachment B of the staff report. Thank you very much, Ms. Beers.
Ms. Liu,
Yes,
I'm sorry, just a technical point.
yes.
Your Ms. Beers commented that there was a typo in the staff report. So I technically believe that would require a small revision in the conditions of approval.
The conditions of approval is correct.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yes, it's just in the typo in the staff report itself.
sorry.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Villalobos. All right, I believe that concludes our hearing for today. Mr. Villalobos, unless you have any other issues I misstepped in?
No, of course.
All right, thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you very much.